do this. All right.
What's up,
In three,
everybody?
two,
This is
one.
the Act Man here, and today I'm posting my very first live service video. I've come to the conclusion that finishing my work before making it publicly available, it just takes too long. It's too much time and effort, and you don't want to wait for content, do you? I need the views and money right.
Now, how's the volume from the video? Is it too loud? Is it too quiet? Is it okay? Okay, good. Let me know if it's too loud or if it's too quiet. I can change it.
My money and I need it now!
So if the audio levels aren't balanced properly or it keeps cutting at random intervals, just know that I'm working on it.
Sounds kind of like me.
Because I'm also launching this brand new feature called Free to Watch Videos. That's right, unlike my OnlyFans, you don't have to pay me to watch garbage. However, I do know that the comment section is currently disabled. Rest assured, our teams are working on that. But I hope you keep coming back to this video to rewatch it every week. I've got a lot of great updates in store. Speaking of the store, did I
Yes, chat. Go to YouTube. Watch videos. There might be a couple that I have up that might be worth watching. Mm-hmm. You watch my videos, right, chat? Right? You're gonna watch my videos, right?
I mention my Patreon and OnlyFans? Okay, is the joke dead?
Yes, get over that!
Right, the joke's dead. Live service video game. If you're like me, when you hear those words, you flinch a little. And if you hear early access before them, you probably start blowing chunks. Despite their lackluster reputation, live service games have become such a popular trend. It doesn't discourage every developer from attempting.
He does kind of look like not this guy, but the Act Man. He does kind of look like a professor, doesn't he, with the glasses, slightly unkempt look. I bet, you know what? I bet he could probably be really good as like a guest speaker in like a software gaming development class. Oh, I know. You were talking about him. Yeah, you were talking about the actor. He's I really think him and others like him. Like him and maybe like Angry Joe and some of these other YouTubers that really go in depth in reviewing games. I would be so cool as like guest speakers for game development classes at colleges stuff, because they could tell them like, look, this is what gamers are looking for. This is what they will see in a game, and this is what's going to turn them off. I just think it's kind of an untapped resources for schools to use for like not guest lecturers but guest speakers to give people that are wanting to jump into this business a better idea of how they can hone their craft.
You
And
probably
kinda
start
neat if they did
blowing
that.
chunks. Despite their lackluster reputation, live service games have become such a popular trend. It doesn't discourage every developer from attempting to make one. I mean, literally, every single new release these days is promoted as an ongoing service. Indie fighting game? It's a live service now, boyo. Single player RPG? Nope.
Oh, and dialing back, I don't know if anybody saw it, but that Warner Brothers fighting game one, that was Kevin Conroy did the voice for Batman. They just released a Joker DLC for that fighting game, and guess who's voicing the Joker? Mark Hamill. Mark Hamill is back as the voice of the Joker after he said he would never do the Joker voice again for one very specific reason. He said he would never do the Joker voice again now that Kevin Conroy has unfortunately passed because without Kevin Conroy, his Joker simply would not work without Kevin Conroy. The two were like a pair. You can't have one without the other. But because Kevin Conroy read lines for that Warner Brothers fighting game, he agreed to run lines for the Joker for the DLC. So you get Mark Hamill back one more time as the Joker. And I just think that's just awesome. It's just so cool.
That's a live service too. Now, let me be clear for a second. Gaming is in the best shape it's ever been. Developers have more tools, resources, and everything they need to make the best video game ever. Elden Ring, for example. The ability to update games post-launch inherently makes the whole industry better. With that out of the way, live service, unfortunately, is both a perk and a crutch. It is both a cigarette and an apple. Some developers are able to...
I would even go far as to say it's a curse in some respects, making a game live service. I don't know if I would call it a crutch. I'd call it, in this day and age, it's kind of...
capitalize on this live service model in the best ways possible. Smash Bros. Ultimate, for example. Without a live service, my dream of seeing Banjo-Kazooie in Smash, it's gone. You can provide constant bug fixes, new content that keeps players entertained for years. And who doesn't want that? But for some developers, the live service becomes a hindrance as they make grandiose promises of a living, breathing platform, only for
16 times the detail. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Yeah, look how that turned out.
that to flatline as the game turns into a ghost town.
50,000 people used to live here. Now it's a ghost town.
Live service
My God, what a night disaster that was. I actually was excited to play. I was actually excited to play Anthem. That was I actually did pre-order of that game because it looked so awesome when it was talked about. And so I went to my local EB Games and I pre-ordered it. And it was like a pre-order of I think it was I can't remember if it was $70 or $50 at the time. But I actually pre-ordered it. It's one of, I think, the only games I have ever pre-ordered. And part of the pre-order is you got to play in the closed beta. Probably about, I would say, 3 months before launch, something like that. Because it was launching for Christmas. And so when the beta came out, I went to go play it. I downloaded it and I went to go play it. And I could not get past the opening splash screen of the studio. Get to the opening screen of that splash of the studio, and then boom, it would crash. Over and over and over again. Called 2 different supports, nothing they could do. They couldn't fix it. And so I couldn't even play the closed beta that I was promised I would be able to play. Next day, I called and I canceled my pre-order. Said, nope, don't want it. And it was a good move because Anthem was a nightmare from launch. And it died as fast as Suicide Squad died. Maybe even faster. Oh yes, Tom. I'm all ears for a real fucky wucky game story. Let me hear it. Really, that Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, I heard that, in addition to that, has just been a nightmare. 20 to 45 minutes just to get it running? Wow. And was this just you alone, or was this a pretty widespread thing? Okay, what was the problem? Really? So basically, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 instantly overclocks your CPU. Wait, your PC was. You mean your PC was too fast or your PC was not fast enough? 'Cause it sounds like your PC was not fast enough. Oh, you had to underclock your CPU. So the game's okay, so basically the game on its face was forcing your PC to run too fast, and you had to throttle it in order to get the damn thing to run. Now, I'm curious, did underclocking your PC cause performance issues during the game itself? Real. So, if I'm understanding this correctly, Modern Warfare 3 with your CPU already clocking in at 5.5, Modern Warfare 3 pushes your CPU even harder for no real good reason, and it's only if you deliberately throttle it to 5 gigahertz will it essentially force the game to run at that slower clock speed. That's chip. That kind of, I mean, and we've been seeing that in a lot of these modern games too. I forget which one it was that came out. It's a couple of years ago. That it on some of the most up-to-date hardware, it couldn't run the game. And I think the only response from the developer was just get a better computer. Actually, I think they did. This isn't the game I was thinking of, but I'm pretty sure Town Howard said that when Starfield was coming out, and they were talking about the requirements for it, and his response was, "Well, just get a better computer." And it's like, you're kidding me, right? So, yeah, it's yeah. Mhm. Well, what a headache. And that's what happens with these big companies. They don't care. They do not care at all.
Games, or LSG, and games as a service is simply the idea that a game will get consistent updates and grow and evolve over time. On paper, this sounds like a no-brainer win, but were it so easy, as the old saying goes. Now, why has this type of game become such a popular trend? What are the problems with live service games, and what can they do right? All these questions and more will be answered after the sponsor of today's video. This video is sponsored by the Grand Mafia and bad Italian accents. I'm gonna make you an offer you can't refuse. A chance to go from level 1 crook to level 100 mafia boss. You ever wish you could beat the salami out of some bullshit mob bosses been giving you trouble? Well, now's your chance to prove it, kiddo. The Grand Mafia is an MMO RTS game where any schlub like yourself can rise through the ranks of the criminal underbelly. Recruit different homies, grow your gang, take over parts of the city, and expand your sphere of influence. Grand Mafia operates on international servers, making playing with people across the ocean a breeze. In Grand Mafia, only one faction can control and govern the city, and you better believe you got competition. You can download and play the Grand Mafia for free. Go do it right now. Use my special code TGM ACTMAN
Nice
to
hat,
obtain unique
Actman.
rewards and participate in the Golden November Anniversary event. It's a big event where all the crime families meet up on a giant cruise and talk things over, if you get my drift. There's a bunch of minigames and a brand new Enforcer Bone Crusher. And don't forget to participate in the H5 minigame where you could win fabulous prizes like a PS5, Amazon gift card, all sorts of things. Download the Grand Mafia today. Come join my family. Check the link in the description and pin comment. And thanks to the Grand Mafia for sponsoring this video.
And now for something completely different.
I kind of want to wear this hat for the rest of the video. Now, before I empty my bowels on the corpse of Anthem and other failed live service games, we need to know why studios shifted to this business model. Why do we go from horse armor to this? Well, it's not hard.
Who else remembers horse armor from WoW? Oh, now that good old Blizzard. If anyone's gonna fuck something up, it's gonna be them.
Hard to understand if you understand business. It's money.
It's just good business.
But you could also watch this chart of the top 15 games on Steam over the last 10 years or so. And what you'll notice is almost all of them are live service. Because even though The Witcher 3 and Elden Ring were some of the biggest, best games ever made, they still don't stay at the top for very long. Elden Ring peaked at 952,000 concurrent players, and it's at 20,000. Okay, I can take the hat off now. I mean, from 2012 to 2018, EA saw their company's value go from $4 billion to $33 billion. Activision Blizzard, $20 billion to $60 billion in the same time period. Both companies largely attributed this to their...
I wonder what Blizzard's stock evaluation is. Yeah. After the debacle that is, well, so many different things. Overwatch 2, Diablo 4, the WoW stuff. I kind of wonder what their stock is at right now. The interesting
Their games as a service business model. LSGs have been around since the 90s with EverQuest. My first experience was in the early 2000s with World of Warcraft and everyone's favorite dating app, RuneScape. These MMORPGs with huge worlds and active player bases needed this kind of constant live support so that gamers would continue wasting their real lives building their virtual ones. You want to learn something new today, do ya? I'll learn you something. In 2003, on the original Xbox, the game Unreal Championship made history by becoming the first console game to get a post-launch update. According to one of the devs, work on this patch began roughly 3 to 4 weeks after the game shipped, and the decision to ship it came after reviewing the forums and hearing the feedback from fans about exploits that started to pop up. It's important to note that the idea of post-launch support, at least on consoles, began as a way to address fan feedback and fix problems that flew under the radar. Because, oh shit, we fucked up. You're not supposed to be flying across the map like that. Because back in the day when you complained about a game on a forum, you didn't expect anything to happen because the game was out. They couldn't do anything about it. I think once the Halo 2 map pack came out, that and Unreal Championship became the launch pad for live service games to really take off. Unlike my fucking vacuum cleaner, I've been waiting on the new...
Yeah, but this isn't so much for live service games. This is also just for you can set the patch. I don't think a game necessarily needs to be live service for you to send an update. Well, no, I suppose you do, now that I'm thinking about it. But at the same time, it's live service, and I'm guessing he may talk about this later in the video. You know, the concept of live service is being used very much as a crutch by the developers now, so that way they can just shit out an incomplete game, and they'll just, as the saying goes, they'll fix it in post, and that's become a huge source of anger for games the last years, is because games are getting sent out unfinished, and the developers just like, oh, we'll send a patch out later. That's why you end up getting 30 gigabyte size games with a 40 gigabyte day one patch that rolls out, which is just, I'm sorry, what? Why the hell wasn't this done before the game was released? And it's, he'll probably talk
for
about
this
that
goddamn forsaken piece of shit. All you have to do to understand trends in business is follow the money. Why is Activision Blizzard suddenly taking an interest in all the sexual harassment allegations floating around their workplace? It's not because it's the right thing to do, it's because they're getting sued. Why are so many videos on YouTube exactly 10
Money
minutes
talks.
long? Money. Because that's when we can put mid-roll ads in. Why is every single company putting a battle pass into their video game? It's not because every player is like, yes, I love it. I love battle passes. No, it's because money. Because why settle for a one-time purchase when you could have more? Hi, Billy Mays here. Game production used to be a fire and forget kind of business. The game launches, it's out, that's it, fellas, pack it up, we're working on the next one. And honestly, if you're gonna put that much effort into creating a game, you want it to pay off. You want it to do well and last a long time. And money makes the world go round.
It's just good business.
So companies want to avoid the risk of investing millions of dollars and thousands of man hours into a product that only turns a profit when it comes out and never after that. That's why the business model evolved. It started with expansions, re-releasing the same game just slightly different and with new stuff. Then it was DLC and map packs, horse armor, extra custom class slots, microtransactions, loot boxes, season passes, and now battle passes.
Or in the case of Metal Gear Survive, an extra save slot. See about, I don't know if you may not have heard about Metal Gear Survive. Metal Gear Survive was sort of a, not sort of a sequel, but sort of a side thing from Metal Gear Solid 5, where you play just some no-name from Mother Base that gets sucked into a wormhole to another dimension on another planet, and you go survive. But aside from the game being not very good, Konami, the game only came with one save slot, and Konami wanted you to pay $10 just to get a second save slot. It was insane for them to try and do something like this.
Inflation has risen, but the price of new games hasn't, unless you're Sony. And you think you're better than everyone. Most consoles are sold at a loss of profit. Developer size and budgets have risen tremendously, and with that, expectations. Companies want to avoid big risks. If they can placate a game's disastrous launch by saying, oh, it's going to be live service, we're going to work on it, then that's what they'll do. Live service attempts to mitigate the risks and sunk costs of game development. Used to be, you bought a game, brought it home. If it was shitty, then it was just a shitty game, and that was it. But then one night, you find yourself just staying awake thinking, man, maybe Superman 64 wouldn't have sucked gorilla balls if it was a live service. Nowadays, you're allowed to release bad or poorly optimized video games as long as you say, well, it's shitty now, but it might get better. Said every developer of an early access survival game. Trust us, this one isn't a scam. I don't think anyone has the boomer hot takes that games were better when they were never updated. People that think that that's what you look like, right there. In an ideal world, a live service would make every game better, objectively, right? I'd kill a man to get more maps in Mario Party 3. Live service experiences weren't so controversial when it was MMORPGs, but once games like Destiny, Fortnite, and Call of Duty started picking up the torch into the mainstream, well, that's when all hell broke loose. Updates, patches, and new content.
Fortnite, I think, is more of an exception to the rule versus kind of a poster, kind of an example of it being bad. Because Fortnite, and granted, I've played Fortnite maybe once or twice. And the reason why I didn't stick with is I didn't like the building aspect to it. And from what I heard, there's now a mode where there's no building involved whatsoever. So who knows? Maybe I'll give it another try sooner or later. But yeah, Fortnite, from what I know about it, from the very beginning, from when Fortnite launched, it ran and it ran well. And all of the live service aspects of it came in the forms of additional content. New maps, new skins, some big events, like there was that recent Eminem event that happened. Like, Fortnite actually worked, and it worked pretty well from what I hear. And that has never been a problem. So that's an example of live service game being done the proper way. The game was released in good condition. They've probably done they've undoubtedly done some tweaks and fixes here and there, but it launched in a good shape, and they've only added on top of that. But that's not what we're seeing so many companies doing. They're doing the exact opposite. They're launching it in a broken state and saying, we'll fix it later. But in the meantime, why don't you beta test it for us so you can tell us what we need to fix? And that's what a lot of people are pissed off about. They're pissed off that they're having to pay to be a beta tester. And who wants to do that? Just actually beta test your fucking game.
Are essential to the live service business model. And it's become commonplace for new titles to have roadmaps, blog posts, video updates, interviews, hot fixes, new maps, patch notes, battle passes, seasons passes. We're taking out this character, we're putting that character back in. I think Jeff Kaplan showed his ass hair on camera at once saying it was going to be in Overwatch 2. And it's like, is the game finished yet? Can I have the fun? Is the fun now mine? The live service experience can easily get muddled and confusing to casual gamers. I already keep track of my bills, my insurance, and the decline of my physical well-being. I don't want to keep track of every update for every live service game. For example, when Halo has always had split-screen campaign co-op, and then one day it doesn't. And it's like, sorry you didn't read blog post number 503-7C. Fuck you.
Yeah, that taking away the split screen, from what I hear, that pissed off a lot of Halo fans. Like, that was this split screen was a core thing for Halo, because you could basically just have multiple people hang out in your place and just do Halo playthroughs with a split screen or a quad screen. And they took that away, and people were like, well, what the hell? Now, if I want to play with my buddy's got to own an Xbox, and he's got to own the game, and he's got to have a good connection. And it's like, you're taking away one of the founding fun parts of the game. Yeah, it is. Co-op couch co-op is pretty much dead. And yeah, it's like they're and this is what happens when when old management goes out and new management comes in, and they say, you know what? It's going to be cheaper and more profitable for us if we remove the split screen co-op, couch co-op, and we force people to buy the consoles and buy our games and then play from their own homes. Forget about, having a community and having, friends over at your house where you can interact with one another. Nope. Give us money. Give us money so you can play with your friends. That's just one more reason why people hate game developers these days, especially the big quote unquote AAA game developers. That's why they're so hated.
By the way, on the flip side, when new seasons are coming out for an already existing game, that can generate a lot of hype. But staying up to date with live service games, particularly ones you're really invested in, can feel like reading a fucking manga. Like, miss one issue, and now you have no idea why.
Well, yeah, exactly. We've seen the change over the years where we're with Sony and with Xbox, particularly with Xbox, they own the game companies, and so they want you to pour more money into their products, and they count on the FOMO to. And just in case anyone in chat doesn't know what the hell I'm talking about, that FOMO stands for fear of missing out. So they want to instill the fear of, if you don't buy one of our consoles and buy this game to play with your friends online, you're going to be missing out on one of the greatest games ever, and you don't want to miss out on that, do you? No, you don't want to be sitting on the sidelines while your friends are talking about how great this game is, do you? And that's where these game companies are really trying to dig their claws in and just screw the customer over,
A
basically.
support hero can outduel Reinhardt. With so many games and so many updates, players generally stick to like one or a few live service games at a time because there's such a big investment on the player's part, right? It's all the reward structures, the daily login bonuses, daily challenges, weekly challenges.
We've taken the lead.
All this vaulting of content and limited time events. Everyone's trying to get you to feel like you're missing out. Remember to rewatch this video after you finish watching it
Vanda.
for the memes. But it's like, are you really gonna stay committed to the Vanguard grind when Modern Warfare 2 is out right now? There's probably people still playing Vanguard. What are you doing? What are you doing?
What are you doing?
If done right, live
Oh, see, now that was the perfect opportunity for the Michael Jordan meme. Get some help. Stop. Get some help.
service can be a saving grace and a guardian angel. Live service
Disappointed
in
in Yak
early
there.
access means developers can release their game, gauge player interest, and make changes before putting all this fucking time and effort into a project. Because they might not be making a good game. Early access can help guide development towards the ideal finish line that the players and developers want to arrive at. The best case scenario you can hope for is to be Fortnite. A game so good at its live service, it's actually annoying. You just had to
Yeah.
add Goku, huh? Knew I couldn't resist at that point. Epic Games has nailed the live service model better than anyone. A game like Vermintide 2 likely would have died if Fat Shark wasn't pumping out consistent updates for it. Games that would have gotten old if new stuff wasn't added. Live service can provide a lot of benefits. Most important among them, giving developers more than one chance to make a statement. It was an economic decision at the end of the day. You gotta cut the bridge when you realize you can't make a lot of money on something. This is what EA CFO Blake Jorgensen said after the company shut down Visceral Studios and canceled their single-player Star Wars game. These are the words.
I remember hearing about that. It was Star Wars 64, something like that. I saw the playtest footage of it, and it looked really cool. It was you I think it was like you were a bounty hunter or something like that, where you were in the underbelly of Coruscant, and it looked like, from the looks of it, I think Ubisoft is, or sorry, is it Ubisoft or EA? Who's coming out with the new Star Wars game? Is that Ubisoft or EA? That's EA. So I'm thinking EA probably took facets from that game because it looked like it was a cover shooter, and so I'm thinking that the new Star Wars Outlaws game has probably taken a lot of assets from that, because the 64, it looked like it had a lot of really cool potential. And then, people saw it and said, okay, this looks cool. It's a Star Wars game that's not about the Jedi. Doesn't have lightsabers. You're playing just some smuggler or bounty hunter or something that's kind of operating in the underbelly of Coruscant. And, maybe we're going to get some new lore here. And a lot of people were really eagerly anticipating it. And then, boom, nope, sorry, canceled. And it's like, well, what the hell? And of course, the next thing they came out with was, what was the first one? I don't think it was Outcast. It was the one that's, there was. It was Jedi Outcast. They came out that one and said, another Jedi game. It's like, the decisions that some people are making at that company, a lot of the decisions are questionable.
Why
That's what I would
KOTOR
say.
3 doesn't exist, because it had to be KOTOR Online, and it couldn't just be Elder Scrolls 6, it had to be Elder Scrolls Online. Live service has become the biggest killer of creativity in the industry by far. Game development seems to have shifted towards being results-driven as opposed to fun-driven. We see this attitude time and time again, as far back as 2012, when, guess who, EA again, President Frank Gibeau said, "I have not greenlit one game to be developed as a single-player experience. Today, all of our games include online applications and digital services that make them live 24/7, 365. In other words, if we can't make this game a live service, then we won't make it at all."
Why? Because fuck you, give me money!
You know BioWare? Yeah, they're
Thank you, Angry Joe. Angry Joe has created the catchphrase for a generation when it comes to video games. I still myself use it to this day.
company that was renowned for making single-player RPGs. Give them an MMO FPS and let's see what happens. This idea that every game should be a platform or a service isn't exclusive to EA, but they seem to be the ones most convinced this is the only option for the future. Like, did anybody ask for Assassin's Creed to be live service? Like, isn't it enough that they already make the damn things once a year? Game development has been heading towards this homogenous blob where, like, every game looks the same. And its menus are the same, and the way you unlock things is the same. With co-op coming to Dead Space 3 and multiplayer rumored for Dragon Age 3, it seems that the idea of solo-oriented...
Co-op Dead Space 3? That makes absolutely no sense. The whole concept of Dead Space is that you are alone in this absolute horror show of a game. That's what makes it such a horror game, is that you are alone. No one's coming to help you. Why would you put co-op into Dead Space? I don't know if it ever happened, because I haven't followed the Dead Space franchise, and I have no idea if Dead Space 3 came out co-op, but the very idea of it is just stupid. It removes a fundamental core part of the game that made it so popular. Again, decisions that make absolutely no sense. Because fuck you, give me money. Yes, exactly right. Fuck you, give me money.
experiences is now dead to EA, as is variety, it seems. The inexorable march towards video games becoming one indistinguishable mash of gray sludge continues. Live service has radically changed the way sequels are produced, if they are at all produced. Right, Rockstar? Making new games is hard. So let's put all our eggs in one basket and just invest in that. Oh, what's that? We made $8 quadrillion? Yeah, that's a reason why Grand Theft Auto 5 has been on 3 console generations. Don't get me wrong, being a live service is an incredible tool to have at your disposal, but not every game needs to be one. What publishers need to realize is that, like my new vacuum cleaner, it's okay to just make something good and leave it at that. You know, at what point does the idea of providing a service conflict with...
And you know what? Elite Dangerous is another very good example of this. Elite Dangerous is a live service game because it is, an MMO space sim. And it's been on 2 different consoles. It's spanned across 2 different consoles. And Frontier is continually making improvements of it. Some of the improvements may be slow, but, I have lived through, the Elite back when the Thargoids were just, and you occasionally ran into one. It was not a common thing. You occasionally ran into one. To a full-on war with the Thargoids, to a degree that it's now become commonplace. To now we're seeing all new freight shift drives with the Super Cruise boosting, and a brand new ship has now been launched. And this has just been the last 3 years. They've had, the previous 9 years to make all sorts of improvements upon the game. Odyssey coming out, where you can now get out of your ship and go on foot somewhere. But this is a game it's been around for almost 10 years now. And instead of saying, okay, let's make another sequel and we'll take all this stuff and put it in sequel, no, they've continued to build upon this game, make improvements to it, fix any fixes that are necessary. Granted, the consoles kind of took it in the ass because now the consoles are not being developed anymore and it's going to be strictly PC, but they're still in existence. You could still play them on console, and they've expanded across 2 different game systems. And, that's another example. It's just like Fortnite. It's an example of doing the game properly and continuing to build and expand features on the game. Instead of saying, okay, base game's done. Yeah, they did. And instead of saying, okay, the game's done, we want to now do where you can land on planets and get out of your ship. Let's create a whole new game for that. Let's create a sequel game for that. No, they took the existing game and said, you know what? We're going to basically put an expansion to it. And you can spend a little bit of extra money to get the expansion, and you can get the extra content, which it is a pretty big plethora of content. I mean, that's how live service is supposed to work, not just we'll throw it out there and fix it later, like they're doing these
providing
days.
A fun experience. I'll tell you when it affects the bottom line. So, okay, we've established that player retention is the most important factor, right?
And speaking of, I have a very strong feeling that because, at least on PlayStation, I don't know about Xbox, but at least on PlayStation, I think the moment Sony stops paying Frontier to have Elite as a part of their PS Plus Ultimate where you can play it for free, the moment Sony says we're not going to be paying you for it anymore, we're taking it off PS Plus Ultimate, I do think that may be the day that Elite Dangerous shuts down, at least on PlayStation. And if they shut it down on PlayStation, I could see them shutting it down on Xbox too. Now, that may not happen for a year or multiple years, but I could see that being the cause of of Elite finally leaving consoles. As I think the fact that it's a part of PS Plus Ultimate, so Sony is giving Frontier kickback, is the only thing keeping Elite alive on consoles. Yeah, it doesn't cost them anything. They're not doing any work on the game, and it costs them little to maintain the servers. But if the game has not been profitable as far as purchasing it outright from on console. The vast majority of people playing our console these days are people playing it on PlayStation, and they're only playing it because they're getting it free because they have a PS Plus Ultimate subscription, which allows them to play Elite for free. The minute that goes away, I do think Elite will probably disappear from consoles entirely, because now Frontier is going to end up not making any money on them whatsoever, and they'll just pull it from the consoles.
In a successful live service, we need players, more possibility for spending, more ways we can monetize. Management needs to hit a bottom line to continue justifying this. Again, please subscribe to my OnlyFans. Most systems in modern video games are focused on maximizing player retention. Once you understand this, everything about modern gaming falls right into place. You begin to understand why social features have been disappearing, why scoreboards are now a hot button issue, why post-game lobbies disband, why you can't vote on maps anymore. You start to realize there's a reason games launch like shit sometimes, and why FOMO has become such a popular acronym recently. If there's a choice between adding a feature that objectively makes a game better and removing it to potentially increase player retention, what do you think the publishers are going to choose? Live service at its worst is the term minimal viable product, as in the bare minimum we can do without getting sued. All we have to do is put out a game that won't get us sued.
Exactly.
I feel like
right.
This idea of live service has been twisted and warped in the minds of some developers and publishers into thinking, well, if it means it increases player retention, then it's automatically a good decision. Not always. Developers like 343 might see the resounding success of Fortnite and Destiny, So they then try to copy what those games are doing without any regard for how it affects theirs. Same with all those shitty battle royales. Once one person does something really, really successful, then everyone starts copying them. It happens everywhere. We can't allow you to choose.
Yep. I mean, what was it? Who was the first? I'm pretty sure it was PUBG was probably the first big battle royale game that I can think of, that I'm aware of. And then everybody started copying. Everybody started, battle royale became the it thing to do. And the only one that managed to match and even supersede PUBG was Fortnite. Fortnite was the only one, and that's because it was a different style. It was more cartoony, and they pumped a lot of assets into it. A lot of assets with the, with the skins and weapons and special events and everything like that. I mean, for God's sake, Fortnite had a tie-in with the Rise of Skywalker movie, to the point that if you did not play Fortnite, you would not understand why in the first few minutes of Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, there's in the opening 10 or 15 minutes, you get a scene where one of the lead characters, Poe, is standing in front of a group of rebels, presumably some, top tier officers or something, and one of the first words out of his mouth is, somehow Palpatine survived, as in Emperor Palpatine. If you didn't know about what happened in Fortnite, you'd kind of go, well, what the hell is this? This is coming out of nowhere. This is coming out of nowhere. When was Palpatine a thing? He was never even hinted at in the previous two movies. And that's because in Fortnite, there was a Star Wars event where the Millennium Falcon, I think the Millennium Falcon flies in and either lands or hovers. And then you hear Emperor Palpatine talking, like, this omniscient sounding voice. You hear him talking. I forget exactly what he even said. And then the Millennium Falcon takes off and then flies away. If you did not play Fortnite, or if you did not know about this event in Fortnite, and you went into Rise of Skywalker, you would be completely lost. Because now apparently movies expect you to do homework before you watch them. Not many people are going to do homework before they go watch a movie. Or play a video game, for that matter. Oh yeah, the new trilogy, that is a whole other thing, and we could talk about that later. But I mean, yeah, fuck the new trilogy. The new trilogy destroyed the entire franchise, and it set the course for the demise of the entire franchise.
What color your armor is in Halo, because that conflicts with the service we intend to provide through carefully controlled coatings. Stupid. No, you can't just choose the color red. You need to unlock it or pay for it. In a lot of examples, live service fucks with things that were already fine to begin with. When someone tells me their game is a live service, my first thought is, okay, so shit's getting cut. Instead of prioritizing the fun, rewarding progression system, companies
I have no idea how that sounded through the voice changer, but I'm sure it probably sounded either completely artifact or really weird.
instead bottleneck progression, monetizing it, making it as tedious as possible. Companies have fully tapped into FOMO culture of gaming, and now every major release is scientifically engineered by a group of computer nerds to be as addictive as possible. They've mathematically crafted games like Overwatch 2 to take 327 years to unlock every cosmetic. They have seasons,
327 years to unlock everything in Overwatch 2. Blizzard? Activision? Are you fucking insane? That's not player retention. That's saying, whales, please come feed us money. Oh my God. Wow.
Limited time battle passes, vaulted content. Get it now, get it now. It's in the store today. It's not coming back ever again. Open your wallet, bitch. Right? Like, I could obsess over the stats of my own channel, or I could continue doing what I think is fun for me and my viewers.
I want to blank the cat.
I think just making good content should be the first and only goal, because everything will follow after that. When your profits are directly tied to the number of people currently playing, that creates pressure. Pressure that is only relieved by keeping the engine moving. Keep moving forward, like Eren Yeager. At that point, progression systems become a vessel for retention, not an extension of good game design. In theory, forcing your audience to complete arbitrary challenges is a great way to encourage people to keep playing longer, because you can always make the challenges as arbitrary and difficult to accomplish as you want. In theory. In reality, people don't like being told how to play a video game. How about
No, in practice, having arbitrary challenges basically just creates an unwanted grind that no one wants to get involved in. That's one of the reasons why Suicide Squad tanks so much, is the grind to get stuff was insane. When they released the Joker DLC, the grind to get the Joker is TOTK. What is that? Well, Baldur's Gate 3, yeah. Baldur's Gate 3 is a whole different thing, because Baldur's Gate 3 it's so expansive that Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, so Tears of the Kingdom in Baldur's Gate 3 is so expansive it doesn't feel like a grind. It feels like you're discovering new stuff. Whereas something like with Suicide Squad, when the new Joker DLC launched, you actually had to play through, effectively speaking, the entire game, I think 10 times, just to get the Joker if you didn't want to pay for it. You had to grind through the game something like 10 times to get to be able to play as the Joker. Or pay us, it was either 20 or 30 bucks and you can get him immediately. So again, fuck you, give me money. And it's, yeah, live service, yeah. Well, lives, oh, yeah. Well, you remember when I talked about RSI on Sunday? That's, yeah, hey, it's, live service has become a beast that cannot be fed. And it is killing games because of it, with a few notable exceptions. But by and large, live service is killing games because of this.
How about this? Let's have the most extreme example. Next Call of Duty game, the only way to level up is through a single challenge for each level, and every time it gets more obnoxious. To get to level 2, all you gotta do, stick players with Semtex 15 times in a match. If you make that progression system, everyone runs around trying to stick you with Semtex, and the game fucking blows. Progression systems can dictate how people play a game, and if you mishandle that, it fucks it up. Live service also, as we all know, leads to the restriction and drip feeding of content. But live service can also make games far more complicated than they need to be, like Diablo Immortal with its 800 different in-game currencies, or League of Legends that honestly didn't need more than 120 champions. You could have stopped there. I remember when my buddy brought over the game 7 Days to Die after it came out, and all I could think was, holy shit, dude, you just got scammed. Like, this video game is so bad, it's a scam. It was one of the most unfinished games I'd ever played, and I didn't have the heart to tell him. He was like, yeah, it's pretty bad now, but I hope they can fix it. And I sat there and I was like, homie, Why are you playing something that don't work? I don't care if you plan to make your game better. If it doesn't capture my interest when I play it, I'm out. I'm a human being with limited time on this planet. I'm not gonna waste it eating garbage. Sure, Sea of Thieves and No Man's Sky, they might be incredible 10 out of 10 games right now, but they weren't when I played.
Is Sea of Thieves, did it become a 10 out of 10 game? Because I heard, like, when it launched, I didn't really hear anything about it after it launched, but I heard it was terrible at launch. That it absolutely sucked. And other than that, I hadn't really heard anything about it. That it was, graphically, it was okay. But, and I guess the liquid physics on the water were really good. So okay, so they improved upon it, and now it's a really fun game. Okay, and you know what? That's great. That's something that I love to hear about. Like with No Man's Sky. On No Man's Sky, when it released in a horrible state, and people hated it. And you know what? They worked their asses off. The devs worked their asses off to improve the game, and now it's become a marvel of a game. People absolutely love it. And I'm glad to hear the same thing happened to Sea of Thieves. That they realized, okay, we fucked up. Now let's fix it. And they fixed it. And you love to see it when that happens. That is something that you love to see when it happens. And I'm glad it did. I'm glad they fixed it.
Played them. And I checked out.
Your game sucks! I don't want it!
Gamers have so little patience for failed live service experiments these days, because so many are already up and running, with years of work put into them. I mean, Destiny had so many updates, they had to remove content because the game was so big. Which brings me to my next point, competition. It's fierce. Succeeding at providing a live service grants the highest of highs, but failing, it's just sad to watch.
Failing will kill your studio. As we saw with, what's that studio's name from the day before? Failure will kill your studio. And sometimes if a game fails that bad, he deserves
Fallout
to kill
76, Anthem, Halo Infinite, Evolve, Marvel's Avengers, Battlefield 2042. The graveyard of failed live service games is big. There's a lot of graves out there. Lots of games with high aspirations that promise the world and more, and yet failed to deliver. It's unfortunate that live service games now have this expectation of launching broken and missing content. Sometimes I can accept that. If the premise of a game is so good that I want to stick around, I will. You know, Battlefield 4 was broken for like 2 weeks to a month. But at the end of that tunnel is arguably the best Battlefield in the series. After release, you need a dedicated team right off the bat, on the racetrack, ready to keep the go-kart moving. You've started the engine. Now supply it with fuel and oil. Call of Duty, despite all of its problems and everything I bitch about, has always been really good with updates and bug fixes. You know, Vanguard might blow ass, but they added a pause feature before 2042 gave us a scoreboard.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
Look at Overwatch 2. Blizzard has already had to disable 3 different heroes because of glitches. Like, I'm sorry, weren't you just re-releasing the game you had before? You can't let that happen in a game where heroes are balanced a certain way and how they fight each other. A live service should...
Well, that and also, there is a difference between fixing stuff and then the updates that are supposed to fix everything creates more problems or removes massive content. Like with Overwatch 2, they took away where they stopped development on the planned story mode that everybody was wanting. Everybody was wanting the story mode for Overwatch 2, and Blizzard went, yeah, sorry. No more. We're getting rid of it. Sucks to be you.
Never be. We launched the game. Now stay tuned for when it's playable, because the store is always fully intact, no issues whatsoever. Live service has become the excuse developers use when they say fuck it and turn in their essay that has 3 sentences written. It's why so many games are allowed to release unpolished, incomplete, and downright busted. And notice I said the word allowed, because people have to approve this shit. They know what kind of game they're putting out. You don't think homie right here knew what Cyberpunk was gonna be? Huh? Think again. Look at it. Look in his eyes. He knew.
Myself and the board are the final decision makers, and it was our call to release the game. Although, believe me, we never ever intended for anything like this to happen.
Interestingly enough, I got Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk was one of the very few games that I bought at launch. I did get that at launch. And not only did I get it at launch, I played it via GeForce Now, which is a streaming service, because the computer I had at the time would not have been able to, was not a gaming PC. I did not have a gaming PC at the time. So my only option was to play it via GeForce Now. And you know what? I only encountered a very rare bug. And it wasn't game breaking. But I really didn't encounter bugs in Cyberpunk. And I played that game from day one. And I never really encountered, like, all the bugs people were talking about, I never encountered them. Sorry, then mute for a second there. I have people that live in Syria think they're living in the Fast and Furious franchise and have extremely loud mufflers on the cars. But yeah, I never encountered any of the bugs that people talked about with Fast and Furious, like the bug where if you're riding on a motorcycle, all of a sudden you're T-posing naked on top of your motorcycle, or the one of Jackie where there's the gun that's attached to his head when he's leaning in close to talk to you and give you the chip to with Johnny Silverhand on it. Yeah, I never really encountered those. It actually was pretty much bug-free when I played it. I was always really fascinated when people were saying, oh yeah, the game is just riddled with bugs and glitches, when that's not something I ever encountered, so it's really weird. But again, and also, Cyberpunk is another example of how a development team puts their head down and puts effort into fixing and even improving the game, like they did with Phantom Liberty, which I still haven't played yet. I'm not sure if I'm going to, but that's another example of it's another No Man's Sky story. They put their head down, they fixed the game, and they made it even better. Unfortunately, I don't think they're doing anything more after Phantom Liberty. They said that Phantom Liberty is going to be the last DLC, so it's unfortunate, but oh well.
Like I said, back in the day, oh, you made a shit game? Sucks to suck, time to move on. You can't do nothing. Now we need to make a new game that's not a dumpster fire. That was the pressure back in the day. You have one shot. Wasn't always the best, but, gave us Halo 2. Without the luxury of fixing it later, developers were forced to make games great on day one or not at all. If you can't hit the ground running, if you keep overpromising and delaying features and putting out irrelevant roadmaps, then you fall dead in the water. A victim of countless other live service games doing what you're trying to do, but better.
And it's not even so much delaying features. It's delaying just fixing the fucking game from the very beginning when you release your game in a broken state. Forget about forget about extra features. It's the actual features that are failing, that they're not fixing, that they're saying, we'll fix it later, and it takes them 6 months just to fix the features.
And gamers also have to think, wait a minute, should I even invest my time grinding the progression system or getting a rank when I have no idea if they're going to pull the plug on this in a year or two?
The game.
Every time I wake up, I'm thankful I didn't play Anthem. And if you're really shady as a company, you can use the live service to test egregious monetization and then change it quickly if you get backlash. Call of Duty's they're not gonna release the anime skins just yet, but they will. because they always do. Live service is often an excuse to give players less than they had before. Halo fans should not have to wait over a year to host custom games with their friends. Call of Duty fans should not have to wait for a competent user interface. Battlefield fans should not be forced to wait for an actual Battlefield title when DICE fucks it up. Overwatch fans shouldn't have to wait 50 weeks just to get one legendary skin. If games don't succeed to expectations, the budget gets smaller. Members of the team move on to other projects. Promised features get pushed back, eventually cut, and all the people who held out hope for the game lose faith, and the well dries up. When a game turns into a live service, it can blur the line between when it's complete or still a work in progress. At what point should a developer stop updating and meddling with their own creation? League of Legends was once my most played game, but now, so many of the champions I used to love playing have been completely reworked. For better or worse, I can never play the old Galio I used to love. And that's another thing, the skin I bought for him, I didn't know they were going to change the hero. You know what I mean? Now that skin isn't worth anything to me. Game Pass, Xbox Live, PlayStation Plus, Nintendo Online. Gaming as a service isn't going anywhere because it makes the most money that way. So while there are a lot of benefits to live service, most games aren't able to capitalize on them. Instead, they fall into all too common pitfalls of getting too ambitious, releasing the game broken, having egregious microtransactions, and anti-fun design. Because if the game sucks and everyone stops playing, then who's the live service for? So thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did, and subscribe to the Act Man for more awesome content. And don't forget to check out the Grand Mafia. Get your Stromboni up in there. Alright everyone, that's all I got for today. This is the Act Man signing out. Peace!